On this night, the luxury restaurant was the scene of an unexpected incident when Kanye West was kicked out for wearing a cap with MAGA. But his reaction was truly shocking. After being humiliated, he returns not just as a guest, but as the new owner of the establishment. Please subscribe to the channel and tell me where you stole this video from. The story opens in the glitzy heart of a bustling city where luxury and extravagance define the landscape. The high-end restaurants, expensive cars, and designer boutiques paint a picture of wealth and exclusivity. The camera zooms in on a grand, sophisticated restaurant. Its marble floors gleam in the soft glow of chandeliers, and the guests seated at the elegantly arranged tables are dressed in the latest fashion trends. The atmosphere is filled with the quiet hum of conversation and the clinking of fine china. Among the polished crowd steps in our protagonist, a man wearing a bold, distinctive red MAGA hat, Kanye West. His presence immediately contrasts with the affluent clientele who are more attuned to subtlety than to attention-grabbing statements. Kanye, despite his towering reputation in the world of music and fashion, exudes an air of defiance as he walks past the towering windows of the restaurant, taking in the refined yet pompous world he's entering. His eyes are full of conviction, but his face remains guarded, as if anticipating the inevitable. The doorman eyes Kanye with disdain. His job is to ensure only the most sophisticated guests are allowed to enter. And Kanye, with his controversial hat and the aura of rebellion that follows him, doesn't fit the profile. He hesitates, unsure if he should even proceed, but pushes forward. The doors open and Kanye steps inside. As soon as he crosses the threshold, the conversations around the room die down. A few heads turn, and some patrons whisper amongst themselves. The sight of Kanye's hat, the red letters boldly proclaiming, "Make America Great Again," is enough to ignite immediate judgment. It's as if the hat itself has declared him an outsider, a man not worthy of this world. The maitre d', a well-groomed man in his mid-40s, approaches with a stiff smile. His gaze lingers on the hat, an immediate signal that he has already judged Kanye's worthiness. He clears his throat, his voice smooth but laced with condescension. "Good evening, sir," he says, his eyes briefly scanning Kanye's outfit. "I'm afraid we have a very exclusive guest list tonight. I'm not sure if we have availability for you." Kanye stands tall, undeterred by the disdain in the maitre d's voice. He looks around, sensing the invisible walls being built around him. The other patrons continue to watch, their eyes filled with judgment. "I'm here for dinner," Kanye says simply, his voice calm, his expression unwavering. "I understand," the maitre d' replies, his tone growing colder. "But we do have a very particular dress code, sir. That hat, for instance, doesn't quite align with our expectations of elegance." Kanye laughs softly, a hint of disbelief in his voice. "A hat? A piece of fabric?" he says, raising an eyebrow. "Tell me, do I need to take off my skin too, or do you prefer to judge people based on their looks rather than their worth?" The maitre d' shifts uncomfortably, his carefully constructed demeanor slipping for a moment, but he quickly recovers, his smile returning like a mask. "I'm afraid the hat is a little more than just fabric, sir. It represents certain views that may not align with the spirit of our establishment." The restaurant around them seems to hold its breath. People are staring now, and the atmosphere, once so serene, is beginning to shift. The tension in the air is palpable. Kanye pauses for a moment, his gaze sweeping the room. He sees the judgment in their eyes, the unspoken prejudices laid bare in the glances and whispers, but his resolve doesn't waver. He's been through far worse, and this moment, though frustrating, is just another challenge in a world that constantly seeks to diminish him. "Look," Kanye says, his voice steady but filled with an edge, "I didn't come here for your approval. I came because I'm hungry, but I'll make you a deal. If you're so concerned about the hat, then let's make it a challenge. You try to turn me away, and I'll make sure every person in this room knows exactly what this restaurant stands for. You'll be the one making headlines tonight." The maitre d' bristles at the suggestion, his face tightening. He wasn't prepared for Kanye's boldness. This wasn't a man who could be dismissed with a few polite words or a quick glare. A tense silence follows, the maitre d' considering his next move, but before he can respond, the restaurant manager approaches. He's a tall, impeccably dressed man with an air of authority that demands respect. He looks Kanye over, then briefly scans the room where murmurs are now rising. The manager's eyes narrow slightly as he sees the situation unfolding. He turns to the maitre d'. "What's going on here?" The maitre d' quickly explains the situation in a low voice, clearly uncomfortable. The manager's expression hardens as he turns to Kanye, his gaze sharp. "We don't tolerate disruptions here," the manager says coldly. "If you can't respect our policies, I'm afraid we'll have to ask you to leave." Kanye takes a deep breath, his calm demeanor betraying a simmering anger beneath the surface. He's been through this kind of discrimination before. The message is clear. He doesn't belong here, not because of his wealth or status, but because of his identity. He's been judged, and now he's being rejected. But instead of backing down, he squares his shoulders and stares directly at the manager. "You're not sending me anywhere," Kanye says, his voice firm but not loud. "This is my space now." A beat of silence passes as the manager assesses Kanye. The tension between them is almost tangible, the restaurant holding its collective breath. The patrons, some nervously shifting in their seats, are beginning to sense a shift in power. Kanye steps forward, his gaze unwavering as he moves toward the back of the restaurant. The staff, stunned into inaction, watches him as he walks to the bar. He pulls out his phone, typing a quick message. In the next moment, the entire ambiance of the restaurant begins to change. The energy in the room shifts, a sense of inevitability hanging in the air. The tension in the restaurant is thick, the murmurs from the other patrons growing louder, a growing cloud of discomfort hanging in the air. As Kanye approaches the bar, the staff and guests exchange uncertain glances. The restaurant, once a picture of pristine order and wealth, has become the stage for an unwelcome drama. The atmosphere shifts from sophisticated calm to barely contained hostility, as the very presence of Kanye challenges the status quo. Kanye takes a seat at the bar, his eyes scanning the room, noticing the way people glance at him, their gazes filled with judgment. It's not just the hat, though. It's his whole presence, his energy. The arrogance of the restaurant's patrons is palpable. They are unused to anyone questioning their authority or stepping into their world with the kind of defiance Kanye exudes. His very existence is a disruption. Not just his hat, but everything about him challenges the power dynamics, the unspoken rules that govern spaces like this. The bartender, a young woman with a polished smile, hesitates before approaching. She's clearly uncomfortable, but maintains her professionalism. "What can I get you, sir?" she asks, her tone neutral but tight. Kanye's gaze shifts toward her, reading the subtle tension in her posture. "You can start by bringing me a glass of your finest wine," he says coolly, leaning back in his seat. "And keep it coming." The bartender nods quickly and turns to fetch the order, but before she can leave, the manager approaches again, his expression tight. His discomfort is palpable, and the air between them crackles with the weight of his disapproval. "You're still here," the manager says, his voice clipped. "I told you before, sir, that this is not the place for your kind." Kanye's face hardens, but he doesn't stand up. He's not about to let this man make him feel small. He knows what's coming. He knows that his mere presence is an affront to the man's carefully curated image of exclusivity. "Let's be clear," Kanye says, his voice steady but sharp. "You don't care about the hat. You care about the fact that I'm not like you. You care about the color of my skin and the fact that I'm not playing your game." His voice rises with a controlled intensity. "I'm not here to fit in with your little world, but you seem to have a problem with me simply existing in it." The manager's face twitches, his jaw tightening. He is not used to this level of confrontation, especially not from someone who, by all accounts, should be beneath him. The assumption that Kanye should just leave, that he would cower in the face of elitism, is now being challenged, and the manager is struggling to keep control of the situation. "You don't belong here," the manager sneers, his words dripping with condescension. "We have standards, and clearly you don't meet them. You're making everyone uncomfortable. I suggest you leave before we call security." The statement lands like a slap across the face, but Kanye doesn't flinch. Instead, his lips curl into a faint, almost mocking smile. "So that's how it is, huh? You're gonna call security because of a hat?" He leans forward, his eyes narrowing. "Or is it because you're terrified of a black man who refuses to bow down to your self-imposed standards?" The manager's eyes flash with anger, and for a brief moment, it feels like the tension in the room could snap. But Kanye's words cut deeper than he could have imagined. The restaurant, a symbol of wealth and power, now feels fragile, as if it could crumble at any moment under the weight of his defiance. The faces of the other patrons, once filled with disdain, now hold something closer to unease. The bartender returns with the wine, placing the glass in front of Kanye with a nervous smile. Her hands tremble slightly, and it's clear she is stuck in the middle of a situation she doesn't know how to handle. Kanye doesn't even glance at the wine. Instead, he looks directly at the bartender, his voice soft but with a quiet authority. "Tell me," he asks, his tone uncharacteristically calm, "how many times a day do you smile like that to people who treat you like you're invisible? How many times do you just nod and pretend to agree with everything they say so you can keep your job?" The bartender's eyes flicker with discomfort, but she doesn't answer. Kanye doesn't need an answer. He can already see it in her eyes, the silent resignation, the heavy price of compliance. The manager, now visibly fuming, steps closer, his hand raised, as if to gesture to the bouncers. "That's enough. Leave now, or I will have you escorted out." But Kanye's expression hardens, and he stands up slowly. The room grows silent, every eye watching, waiting for what he will do next. The patrons, now drawn into the drama, are almost breathless in anticipation. Kanye takes a step forward, his gaze unwavering. "You think you have control here, don't you?" Kanye says, his voice low but with the strength of someone who knows they've already won. "But the truth is, you're just afraid. You're afraid of me because I'm not playing by your rules. You're afraid because deep down, you know your world is built on bullshit. And I'm here to expose it." The room feels like it's vibrating with tension, the silence suffocating. For a moment, no one moves. But then, a voice from the back of the room interrupts. A woman, seated at one of the most prominent tables, speaks up. "He's right," she says, her voice ringing with authority. "This restaurant claims to be a place for the elite, but all I've seen tonight is petty judgment and arrogance. It's disgusting." The room shifts again. The woman, dressed in a tailored black suit and striking jewelry, locks eyes with Kanye, giving him a subtle nod. It's a moment of silent solidarity, one that feels like it could spark something larger. Kanye doesn't say anything at first. He just nods back, acknowledging the support. The manager, now on the verge of losing control, steps back, his face flushed with rage. He turns to the maitre d' and barks an order for the bouncers to be called. But Kanye isn't backing down. "You don't need to call anyone," Kanye says firmly. "I'm leaving, but I'm not leaving without making a statement." As he turns toward the door, he pauses, looking around the room. Every eye is on him now. The manager watches, seething with anger, but unable to act. Kanye steps outside, and as the door swings shut behind him, he pulls out his phone. The tension doesn't dissipate once Kanye steps out of the restaurant. Instead, it lingers in the air like a storm ready to break. The sounds of the city, honking cars, distant chatter, the hum of traffic, feel like a blur as Kanye walks down the street. His mind races, each thought sharper than the last. He can't shake the feeling that this moment isn't just a small altercation. It's part of something bigger, a greater battle that he didn't even know he was fighting, and he's not about to let it slip through his fingers. He reaches into his pocket and pulls out his phone, the cold glass screen almost like a lifeline. The tweet he types is swift, almost instinctive. "I don't need your approval. I'm not here to fit into your little world. I'm creating my own." With a press of the button, it's sent, broadcasting his defiance to the world. Kanye doesn't wait to check the responses. He knows they'll come. It's inevitable. In moments like this, people either stand with him or against him. Either way, he's in control now. As he walks, the scene from the restaurant replays in his mind, and with each replay, his anger deepens. But it's not just the manager's words that gnaw at him. It's the undercurrent of racism that slipped through. The way the staff couldn't even look him in the eye without fear. The way the other patrons stiffened when he walked in. It was more than just a rejection of his hat or his clothes. It was a rejection of him. A rejection of his identity, of his presence, of everything he represents. By the time he reaches his car, Kanye's fury has reached a boiling point. His fingers grip the steering wheel tightly as he starts the engine, the rumble of the car's powerful engine echoing the intensity of his thoughts. The city's lights blur past him as he drives, not really caring where he's going. He's not thinking about the next step in the business. He's thinking about making the world understand. He's thinking about making them feel the injustice, the prejudice, the limitations they've placed on people like him. The next morning, Kanye wakes up to the buzz of his phone. The notifications are relentless. Hundreds of comments, shares, reposts. A tweet has gone viral, stirring up a frenzy online. Some of the responses are supportive, others less so. A few even echo the same sentiment the manager in the restaurant had, that Kanye was out of line, that he didn't belong in those kinds of spaces. But Kanye doesn't care about the dissenting voices. What matters is the growing wave of support. Celebrities, influencers, and even regular people are joining the conversation. Some are defending him. Some are enraged by the treatment he received. Others are calling attention to the larger issue of racism in elite spaces. He scrolls through the comments, his mind turning over the words like a puzzle. But one comment stands out. It's from a verified account, a high-profile businessman, someone Kanye knows by reputation. It reads, "The restaurant industry has been run by elitists for too long. I've seen the way people like you are treated. Maybe it's time we change that." Kanye's eyes narrow as he reads the message again. He's seen the name before, but the context is new. The wheels in his mind begin to turn, slow at first, but gathering speed. This isn't just some random supporter. This is someone who could help him turn the tide, someone with power in the restaurant world. The message ends with a number and a simple invitation. "Let's talk. I'll be at my office this afternoon. Call me." Kanye doesn't waste time. He picks up the phone and dials the number, his fingers steady despite the rush of excitement he feels building inside. The call connects and a deep voice answers. "Hello?" "This is Kanye," he says, his tone confident but careful. "I saw your message. Let's talk about changing the game. I'm done with people like that manager controlling the narrative. It's time we flip the script." There's a pause on the other end, as if the man is considering Kanye's words. Then the voice responds, low and steady. "I've been thinking the same thing. I've got some ideas on how we can make a real impact. Meet me at my office at 2. I think you'll like what I have in mind." The call ends, and Kanye leans back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. This could be the breakthrough he's been waiting for. It's not just about revenge on one restaurant anymore. It's about something bigger. It's about rewriting the rules. About creating a world where people like him, people who are never allowed to just be, are finally in charge of their own destinies. As the day wears on, Kanye prepares for the meeting. He knows it won't be easy, but he's no stranger to battles. He's fought for everything he has, and this will be no different. He dresses with intention, his attire bold, loud, unapologetic, the same way he always is. He knows that no matter what happens in that meeting, he will walk out of there stronger than ever. The office building is sleek and modern, its reflective glass panels gleaming in the sunlight. Kanye steps out of his car and walks toward the entrance, his mind focused on the conversation ahead. When he enters the building, the receptionist greets him with a polite smile, but Kanye can sense the tension in the air. It's the same thing that happens everywhere he goes now. People hesitate. People look at him like they don't know whether to be wary or impressed. He's shown to a conference room on the top floor where the businessman is already waiting. His name is Jonathan Keller, and he's dressed in a sharp suit that screams authority. But when he stands to greet Kanye, his handshake is firm, and there's something in his eyes, a spark of recognition, maybe even admiration. Kanye doesn't know what it is yet, but he feels the weight of it. "I've been watching the situation unfold," Jonathan says as they sit across from each other, "and I'll be honest with you. I've been waiting for someone to come along and shake things up, someone who's not afraid to go after the establishment." Kanye leans forward, his eyes locked on Jonathan's. "I'm not here to shake things up. I'm here to own the damn thing. It's time for us to build something new. Something where we don't have to fight for respect, something where we take it." Jonathan smiles, and for the first time in a long while, Kanye feels like someone else finally gets it. The conversation continues, and with each word, Kanye's plan becomes clearer. This is only the beginning. He's about to ignite a revolution, not just against one restaurant, not just against a single manager, but against an entire system that has long turned a blind eye to people like him. And no one is going to stop him now. The days following Kanye's meeting with Jonathan Keller are a blur of activity. Kanye is no longer just reacting to the world, he's shaping it. Each decision, each phone call, each strategic move feels like it's building towards something monumental. The conversations have shifted. He's not just the musician, the fashion icon, or the controversial figure anymore. He's become the force that people can't ignore. And now, the plan is in motion. Jonathan Keller has put him in touch with a network of influential figures across industries. People who, like Kanye, have spent years on the periphery of elite circles, waiting for their moment to claim their space. There's energy in the air now, an undercurrent of possibility. The restaurant world, the fashion world, the entertainment industry, none of these realms are safe anymore from the change Kanye is about to bring. Kanye's phone buzzes constantly. Emails, messages, texts. The pressure is mounting, but it's a pressure he welcomes. It drives him forward, propels him into action. He's no longer sitting on the sidelines. He's making the decisions now, and every one of those decisions is calculated. The first part of the plan is simple. Infiltrate the industry from the inside. Jonathan has offered Kanye a seat at the table, an opportunity to invest in several high-end restaurants. The idea isn't just about ownership, it's about shifting the balance of power. Kanye isn't just going to buy into these places, he's going to reinvent them, starting with the one that started it all, the restaurant that had so boldly kicked him out. Kanye spends the next few days meeting with architects, designers, and high-profile restaurateurs. He's already got a vision for how he wants these spaces to feel. Extravagant, yes, but also unapologetically inclusive. He wants every person who walks through the door to feel the same respect that he was denied. Every inch of the restaurant, from the walls to the menu, will reflect that. It will be a place where the elite are forced to confront their biases, not just in the food, but in the very atmosphere. It will be a place where the people who have always been on the outside can finally sit at the table. Kanye spends hours poring over the design concepts. He meets with his team to brainstorm every detail. This isn't just a business move, it's personal. It's about proving that someone like him, someone who's always been an outsider, can not only succeed in these spaces, but own them. And it's about giving other people like him the space to do the same. He's building a legacy, and it starts here, with this restaurant. The news of Kanye's involvement begins to spread. The media starts to take notice. There are articles about the new venture, questions about what he's planning, and whispers about how much power he's gathering in the culinary world. But as the buzz grows, so does the pushback. People who have long held sway in the upper echelons of society aren't thrilled about a figure like Kanye coming in and disrupting the status quo. There are whispers of sabotage, criticism of his methods, accusations that he's just playing a publicity game. But Kanye doesn't care. He's used to being underestimated. He thrives on it. One evening, after a long day of meetings, Kanye sits alone in his office. The lights are dim, the hum of the city below barely audible through the thick glass windows. He picks up his phone and scrolls through the messages again. One catches his eye. It's a message from Jonathan, an invitation to a high-profile event. The type of event that Kanye knows is more about networking than anything else. The kind of event where people with power and influence come together to exchange pleasantries, all while hiding their true motivations behind smooth smiles and expensive suits. Kanye knows exactly what he's walking into. It's not just an event, it's a battle for dominance. He's been invited because they want to see what he'll do. Will he play by their rules, or will he continue to disrupt their world? he accepts the invitation. The night of the event arrives, and Kanye steps into the venue with the same confidence he's always had. The room is filled with the city's elite, business magnates, politicians, media moguls. There's a sense of exclusivity in the air, an unspoken understanding that not everyone belongs here. Kanye feels it immediately. The glances, the raised eyebrows, the tight smiles. They all know who he is, but they don't quite know what to make of him. He moves through the crowd, his presence undeniable. He's not wearing a suit or a tie. Instead, he's dressed in a custom-designed outfit that blends streetwear with luxury, his signature style. It's bold, it's loud, and it's meant to send a message. He's not here to conform. He's here to change things. As Kanye makes his way through the room, he's approached by a man he recognizes immediately. It's the owner of one of the most well-known upscale restaurant chains in the city, a man who's made millions off the backs of the city's elite. He's everything Kanye has been fighting against. The man extends his hand with a practiced smile. "Kanye," he says, his voice smooth but edged with something else. "I have to say, I'm impressed. You've made quite a stir." Kanye doesn't shake his hand. Instead, he looks the man in the eye, a smirk tugging at the corner of his lips. "Impressed, huh? That's funny, because I don't remember you or your kind being impressed by me before." The man's smile falters just for a second, but he quickly recovers. "Well, times are changing, aren't they?" Kanye's eyes narrow. "You're damn right they are, and I'm not waiting for anyone's approval anymore. I'm here to take what's mine." The man laughs, but it's a hollow sound. "Well, good luck with that. You'll need it in this world." Kanye watches him walk away, his back straight, his posture unflinching. The man's words don't affect him. They don't even register. Kanye is on a mission now, and nothing is going to stop him. As the night continues, Kanye finds himself surrounded by people who want to either challenge or make deals with him. But he doesn't care about deals, not right now. What matters is the bigger picture. He's building something that these people can't even comprehend. He's no longer a pawn in their game. He's the one calling the shots. The evening ends without fanfare. Kanye leaves the event with his head held high, the weight of the night's interaction swirling in his mind. He's not done yet. The next phase of his plan is already in motion. As he heads back to his office, he can feel the momentum building. He knows that there are challenges ahead, but he's ready. The tide is rising, and Kanye West is ready to ride it to the top. The restaurant has been closed for 2 weeks now, undergoing a massive redesign. Kanye's vision is beginning to take shape, and the transformation is more than just physical. It's ideological. The walls have been torn down, rebuilt, and adorned with a fusion of contemporary art and historical pieces that tell the story of those who have been marginalized, those whose voices have been silenced. Every corner of the space speaks to his journey, from the street corners of Chicago to the gilded halls of high society. It's a stark contrast to the polished, sterile atmosphere that once dominated this place, the place where he was humiliated. Now, as Kanye walks through the restaurant, the space feels more like a temple to his personal revolution than a place for dining. The walls are lined with murals that reflect his experiences, moments of struggle, moments of triumph. In the back, where the kitchen once was, he's installed a small recording studio because the music, just like the food, is an essential part of the experience. This isn't just about food anymore. It's about culture, it's about art, it's about power. He walks through the main dining area, inspecting the layout. The tables have been arranged to create an atmosphere of inclusion rather than exclusivity. No longer are the rich and the poor divided by an unspoken barrier of status. Here, they sit side by side, forced to interact, forced to acknowledge each other. Every detail has been thought through. The team he's assembled to run the place has been handpicked, each member a reflection of Kanye's values. There are artists, musicians, chefs, designers. All of them possess a unique skill, a talent that represents the diversity Kanye believes in. He doesn't just want this place to be successful. He wants it to be revolutionary. He wants it to be a symbol of what happens when you push back against the forces that try to keep you down. But there's one more thing that needs to happen. One final piece of the puzzle. He needs to take the place back publicly. He needs to make a statement that shows the world that not only is he in control, he owns it. This isn't about making money anymore. This is about ownership, about dignity, about reclaiming what was taken from him. The day of the grand reopening arrives. The buzz around the restaurant has been palpable for weeks now, and Kanye knows that this is the moment where it all comes together. The media is there, the socialites are there, the influencers are there. But Kanye isn't interested in their applause. He's interested in the message he's about to send. As the guests begin to trickle in, Kanye stands at the door, watching them with a detached coolness. Some look at him with surprise, others with contempt. The same people who once judged him for his ambition, who mocked him for his boldness, now enter his space as if they're the ones in control. They don't know it yet, but this night will be their reckoning. The restaurant fills up quickly. The first wave of elite guests, celebrities, and influencers take their seats. The atmosphere is tense with curiosity. Everyone is wondering what Kanye is up to. Whispers float through the air. He's been the talk of the town for weeks, but tonight is the night they'll finally get answers. At the head of the room, Kanye's presence is unmistakable. He doesn't wear a suit like everyone else. Instead, he's dressed in a black hoodie, ripped jeans, and a custom-made leather jacket. It's a symbol, a rejection of the formality they demand. A statement that he will never be what they want him to be. He is, and always will be, himself. As the evening progresses, Kanye watches carefully, noting the reactions of his guests. There's tension in the air, a sense of discomfort as people begin to realize that this is no ordinary night. His chefs are pushing the boundaries with every dish, using ingredients that defy expectations, creating flavors that challenge the very idea of what fine dining should be. There's an electric charge in the room as each dish arrives, forcing people to reconsider their assumptions about food, class, and culture. But it's the final course that will leave the most lasting impression. As the servers clear the table, Kanye stands up. The room falls silent, all eyes on him. He walks to the center of the room, his footsteps echoing through the quiet. He waits a beat, letting the tension build before speaking. "I'm not here to play their game," Kanye says, his voice low but firm. "This isn't just about food or about luxury. This is about reclaiming what's ours. This is about rewriting the rules." He pauses, his gaze sweeping over the room. "You see, I've been here before. I've sat at your tables, been judged by your rules. But now, I'm the one who owns the table, and I'm bringing everyone with me." The room is still. Some guests exchange uncomfortable glances, others sit frozen, unsure of how to react. Kanye's words hang in the air like a challenge, an invitation, a declaration. The restaurant's original manager, the same man who had humiliated Kanye, stands in the back, watching with a mixture of disbelief and anger. He had expected Kanye to falter, to back down when confronted with this world of power and prestige, but instead, Kanye has turned the tables. He's not only owned the space, he's taken the very concept of luxury and turned it on its head. Kanye turns to face the man, locking eyes with him. "You were right about one thing," Kanye says. "Times are changing, and you're about to find out just how much." He walks toward the exit, his steps deliberate, leaving the room to process the weight of his words. The restaurant is his now. The city is his now. As Kanye steps out into the cool night air, he feels something shift within him. He's no longer just a symbol of resistance. He's become the embodiment of change. What started as a personal vendetta has grown into something far larger, something that will force the world to reckon with its own biases and privileges. And Kanye West is just getting started. The city is buzzing. Kanye's bold public declaration has spread like wildfire, becoming the talk of every major news outlet and social media platform. The entire world is watching, waiting to see how this audacious man, once cast out by the very circles that now flood his restaurant, will shape the future of not just the culinary world, but the social landscape itself. It's no longer about a single man reclaiming what was his. It's about a reckoning with the systems of exclusion and power that have long defined high society. The backlash comes swiftly. The influential figures who had once rallied around Kanye now feel threatened. Their world, built on exclusion and privilege, is under siege. In the following days, Kanye's restaurant becomes a battleground, a symbol of the new world order he's trying to create. Critics, journalists, and even former allies rush to tear him down, labeling him arrogant, disrespectful, a man with too much power and not enough humility. Yet Kanye doesn't flinch. The attacks only seem to fuel his resolve, his belief that this isn't just a personal vendetta, but a revolutionary act. In the face of constant media scrutiny, he remains defiant, appearing at his restaurant almost daily, working side by side with his staff, speaking to anyone who will listen about his mission, to break the chains of a system that values the few over the many. One evening, a group of high-profile critics gathers at the restaurant, hoping to find something, anything, to discredit Kanye's revolution. They're all men and women who have never known what it's like to be on the outside looking in, who have spent their lives behind gilded gates, sipping champagne and scoffing at those they deem beneath them. They come to see the spectacle for themselves, eager to witness the downfall of a man they still believe doesn't belong in their world. Kanye, however, welcomes them with open arms. As the group arrives, Kanye is there to greet them personally. His outfit is simple, but it speaks volumes. A black sweatshirt with a striking logo, his brand now synonymous with defiance. His eyes gleam with a quiet intensity, the same fire that had once burned when he was cast out now simmering with calculated purpose. They sit down to eat, and the meal begins. Every course is a statement. The food isn't just art, it's a challenge. The first dish arrives, a deconstructed piece of something traditionally regarded as low cuisine, a fusion of street food and fine dining. It's a metaphor, one that cuts deep, showing the elite that the very food they deemed unworthy can be transformed into something of beauty, of worth. The critics pick at their plates, unsure of how to react. Then comes the wine, handpicked by Kanye himself. It's bold, it's unconventional, and it's expensive. But there's something about it that unsettles them. It doesn't fit the mold of what they expect from luxury. It's not what they know, and that makes them uncomfortable. With every dish, Kanye watches them closely, studying their reactions. He knows what they're thinking. This isn't right. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. They're angry, they're confused, but they're also intrigued. And Kanye can see it in their eyes. The power dynamic is beginning to shift. After the last course is served, Kanye stands, placing his glass down. The room goes quiet, all eyes turning to him. "You came here to tear me down," Kanye says, his voice calm but carrying weight. "But instead, you've just tasted the future. The world you know, the one you've built your lives on, wasn't made for people like me. But I'm not asking for permission anymore. This is mine, and it's mine for all of us. For every person you've shut out, for every person you've ignored." His words hang in the air like a challenge. The critics, who had come prepared to destroy him, sit frozen, suddenly uncertain. Kanye's eyes flash with conviction. "You thought you could box me in," he continues. "You thought you could define me by your standards. But you were wrong. I'm not just a rapper, a designer, a celebrity. I'm everything that you didn't expect, and I'm not going anywhere." The critics glance at each other, their faces showing a mixture of discomfort and begrudging admiration. They had come expecting to tear him down, but instead they were witnessing the rise of something bigger than any of them had anticipated. Kanye was no longer the man they thought they knew. He had become something far more formidable, a force to be reckoned with. As the dinner concludes, Kanye's presence is felt like a thunderclap in the room. He's not just the man who has reclaimed his space, he's the embodiment of the change he's advocating for. His words linger long after the critics leave, shaken and speechless. But the true reckoning is yet to come. In the days that follow, Kanye becomes a lightning rod for every controversial issue in the city. News outlets begin to report on his increasingly bold statements about race, class, and ownership. Social media erupts with heated debates over his restaurant, his methods, his attitude. To some, he's a hero, a man who has transcended the limitations placed on him by a racist, elitist system. To others, he's an arrogant upstart who's upset the natural order. But Kanye isn't interested in the opinions of the naysayers. The power is now his, and he knows it. A week later, a final event is held at the restaurant, an exclusive gala, this time not for the elite, but for the community Kanye has always fought for. It's his declaration that his space isn't just a symbol of wealth, but a refuge for those who have been excluded, a place for everyone who's ever felt like they didn't belong. The evening is a triumph. There's music, laughter, and a sense of unity in the air. Celebrities and socialites rub shoulders with artists, activists, and ordinary people from the city. Kanye walks through the room, smiling, knowing that he has won. Not just the restaurant, but something much more profound. The power to change the world, to reshape society's values, to shift the balance of control. And as the night draws to a close, he looks out over the crowd, satisfied. The old guard has been toppled. The world has been forced to reckon with itself. Kanye West has not only reclaimed what was once his, he has built something new, and the world will never be the same again. As Kanye stepped into the sleek, high-end restaurant once again, the atmosphere seemed to shift around him. The air buzzed with uncertainty, as if the building itself was holding its breath. He had made his statement, had dismantled their pretentious world with nothing more than his presence and his relentless resolve. The staff, now acutely aware of their own folly, stood frozen, waiting for something, anything, to break the tension. The owner, Mr. Donovan, who had earlier dismissed him with a wave of superiority, was nowhere to be seen. Kanye's sharp gaze moved across the room, spotting the silent whispers among the guests. He could feel the weight of their judgment and ridicule even without words. They still couldn't understand him. But that was the point. He had never been here for their approval. This moment was his own. The steps towards the restaurant's central dining area felt long, heavy with purpose. His mind briefly flashed back to those moments of humiliation, the pointed glances, the condescending tones. He had come here not just to make a statement, but to rewrite the rules they thought they could dictate. This was his world now, and they would have to live in it. He approached the private back room where the management and owner often gathered to discuss their profits and plans. The heavy wooden door was locked, but with a swift motion, Kanye reached for the door handle and twisted. It opened effortlessly, as if it were meant to give way to his will. Inside, the managers were huddled in whispered conversations, clearly rattled by the earlier turn of events. Mr. West, one of the managers, a slim man in a perfectly tailored suit, stood to greet him. His voice was unsteady, betraying the calm facade he had attempted to maintain. "What can we do for you? We didn't realize." Before he could finish, Kanye's cold stare silenced him. The tension in the room was palpable. "I don't need your excuses," Kanye said, his voice steady but filled with unspoken fury. "You've crossed a line tonight, and I don't forget when people underestimate me. I don't forget how you treated me. And I don't forget how you treat people like me." There was a beat of silence. Then Mr. Donovan, the restaurant's owner, entered the room with an air of unshakable confidence. He was tall, his white hair slicked back, his polished demeanor betraying no trace of anxiety. But the change in his eyes was unmistakable. He had heard the whispers. He had seen the damage Kanye had caused. And now he knew that his establishment was at the mercy of this powerful, unpredictable force. "I see you've come back, Mr. West." Donovan's voice was smooth, but there was a noticeable strain beneath it. "You've made your point. Let's settle this like reasonable men." Kanye chuckled, a low, unsettling sound that seemed to reverberate off the walls. "Reasonable men? The only reasonable thing is that I'm the one who runs this place now. So I suggest you sit down and listen closely, Donovan. You're out. Your whole establishment is mine." The word hung in the air like a bombshell. The room, which had been filled with murmurs and uncertainty moments ago, now grew deathly quiet. Every eye was locked on Kanye, waiting for a sign of what was to come. Mr. Donovan opened his mouth, but no words came out. "You see, I didn't come here to beg for your respect," Kanye continued, his voice colder now, sharper, as his vision zeroed in on the man. "I didn't come here to ask for a seat at your table. I came here to take it. This place, this restaurant, it's mine now. And it's going to be a place where people who look like me are not just welcome, they're celebrated." A ripple of disbelief ran through the room, but Kanye wasn't finished yet. His eyes shifted to the rest of the staff, the same ones who had earlier stood by and watched him be humiliated. "You all have a choice," he said, the authority in his voice unmistakable. "You can leave now, walk out the door like the cowards you are, or you can stay and learn what it really means to work in a place of respect and dignity. Your decision, your future. But know this, no one will ever be dismissed or belittled in my establishment, not because of their color, not because of their appearance, not because of anything but their ability." Mr. Donovan, his face growing redder by the second, looked at his managers and staff, but no one seemed to dare speak. Finally, with a sharp exhale, he clenched his jaw. "You think you can just walk in here and take what I've built?" he growled. "I'm not just walking in," Kanye shot back. "I'm here to build something better. You've had your shot. It's over now. I'll make sure of that." The silence stretched on, the weight of Kanye's words settling like a cloud in the room. The tension that had once felt suffocating began to shift, and it became clear. This was no longer about a simple altercation. This was about power, about control, about making sure that the old ways, the old rules, had no place in this new world Kanye was forging. As Kanye stood tall, looking every part the man who would not be underestimated, a wave of realization hit the staff. The restaurant they had known, the world they had been comfortable in, was crumbling. Kanye wasn't just taking over, he was reshaping the very essence of it. One by one, the staff began to nod, their expressions shifting from defiance to reluctant respect. The tension in the room began to dissolve, replaced by an understanding that Kanye wasn't here to destroy them. He was here to demand better, to demand more. And as Mr. Donovan slumped into the nearest chair, defeated and overwhelmed, Kanye turned on his heel, ready to walk out into the world that was now his. The door swung open, and the staff watched him go, this time not as an outsider, but as the man who had rewritten the rules. The man who had, in a single move, turned the tables and taken control of the game. Kanye West had not just claimed this restaurant. He had claimed a place at the table of power, a table he would now shape and define on his terms. The legacy of the past was gone. The future was in his hands, and it had only just begun. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new and exciting videos. We're always working on new stories, and there are many more exciting plot twists ahead that you definitely don't want to miss. Also, don't forget to share this video with your friends. Maybe they will also appreciate this story and be happy to be part of our community. Your likes, comments, and reposts help us create content you love and inspire us with new ideas. Check out the other videos on the channel, too. We have a lot of interesting content that is definitely worth your attention. And, of course, don't forget to click the bell to stay up to date with new releases. Thanks for being with us, and see you in the next video.